Hello, hello, and welcome back to the chaos. Today, I am gonna practice my stone setting. I have this chalcedony. I always say that. I don't know why I always say it wrong, but let's see if you can see. I have a chalcedony stone. It is a cabochon. You can see it's really pretty. So I got a couple of these a few years back at a gym show, like most hoarders do, kept it in my tidy little pile, and I never did anything with it. I thought it would be a good idea to practice my stone setting. Now, you could actually just use the build-up method and make this out of wax, but I kind of wanted to practice my stone setting a little bit. I will tell you, in school, I was not the best at stone setting. There were definitely some things that I was much better at than others. Like, for example, I was much better at casting than I was at stone setting, and I didn't practice it as much as I should have. Just did one or two little stone settings and I wasn't like amazing at it. Practice makes perfect, so we're gonna practice that today. As usual, I just want to tell you guys that I am not a professional. I'm just a girl who took a couple college classes and is in her garage trying to get back at it and practice.
I'm in danger.
So let's go ahead and take it to the table. So I have a couple things spread around the table, but I wanted to share with you guys just a quick like little storage thing. I got these, I think at Walmart. I don't know if they still sell these. These little travel jars have these little screw lids. I like to use this to organize my solder chips. I like to cut a couple chips of the different hardnesses of solder, and then I just put them in here. So I have easy in here, some medium in here, which I think I need to cut some more, some hard chips in here. And this, I think I had some super easy. I don't know why past Lauren did not set me up for success with that one. And I'll cut a couple of chips. I usually use these little clippers because when I cut, I can actually see in here how much solder I'm cutting. And I usually just need a couple whole chips to get stuff done. Obviously, I have the cabochon here, and I have some digital calipers. Here we go, just to kind of give you an idea of the size of the cabochon that we're using today. We're gonna use this today because I wanna measure the bezel height. So if my goldfish brain is correct, you want the bezel height to be 1/3 of the total height. So we are gonna take that measurement and divide it by 3 to get our bezel height. I have some silver sheeting. You could see I already used this for something. I'm gonna actually cut a strip of the metal, and then I am also going to use this to make the back of the bezel. I think this stone is really pretty when the light comes through it. So I am actually going to cut a little bit of the silver behind the stone out. I'm gonna need the calipers for those too, just to make sure that I'm measuring all the way around correctly. Force of habit, I always kind of clean my solder a little bit. So when I do this, I can kind of see how much of the solder. And then I cut it down into the bowl, or down into my little cup rather, because sometimes it'll go wherever it wants to. Now we've got a couple chips of solder. Hard solder. I'm gonna put that off to the side. And I'm gonna be using this. This is the hard soldering flux. Okay, so 5 millimeters is the height of the cabochon, right? So we need it to be, let's say about 1.7. We'll just round up because we're gonna sand this down later anyway. And this is just gonna give me an idea. So I'm just gonna make a straight line. I have just one of these cheap little bench pens, and I'm gonna go ahead and screw this to the table so that we can grab our jeweler's saw and start cutting the metal. All right, so that looks like that is gonna be long enough to overlap these a little bit, because really what I'm gonna try to do is overlap these and then make a little mark and then cut it so that it is the right size. Let's say maybe like here. Still a little big, I think. I trimmed a little on the other side of the line because I was nervous about making it too short and having to recut again, but I think I'll trim it back just a little bit more before I solder it together. Okay, let's trim it just a tiny bit more. All right, so I gave it just a little tiny trim up, and I feel like we're almost there. I'm not taking very much off. It looks okay there. That might be actually fine. You know what? I think I might just leave that. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and solder this part closed. Just make it a little flatter so that they're touching. So there you go. You can see I flattened that out a little bit so that it is easy for me to solder that together. That's looking pretty good. Make sure I sand the back. Just make sure it's nice and clean. And then I like to do one of these a little bit because I I want to have some tension on there. So that looks pretty flat to me. And I will sometimes do one of these just because it's so tight, but I'll run the sandpaper through just a tiny bit. So that's not too bad. That's pretty tight. And I don't see any gaps or anything through there. I'm gonna put this right here. I'm actually just gonna brush a little bit of that flux on there. So I have my little soldering pick and I got some tweezers. There we go, put the little solder chip right there. There we go, hopefully you guys can see that a little bit better. Dunk this in our little bowl of water. All right, I don't want to take too much off, so I have kind of a finer grit. I'm just gonna figure eight it. And I am gonna kind of change directions and flip it a couple of times and change angles and stuff just to try to make sure that I get it even and I'm sanding it evenly so it's nice and flat. Let's see what this looks like before we get carried away and go to the next step. Okay, that's not too bad. I obviously need to do a little shaping. I think that's a better shape. Oops, I'm just gonna kind of move this around and squeeze it a little. Not all the way around, but just like the actual shape so that the base is correct. What do you guys think? I don't think that's too bad for my first attempt. A little misshapen at the bottom. I think that'll be okay once I actually clean that up and set it. That's where we are height-wise, you can see. So I might adjust that just a little bit. All right, so I have my silver sheet. I'm just gonna pick a little corner. One thing I am gonna do though is I am gonna hit this with a little sandpaper first. There we go. Just so it's nice and clean. I know I've got a little couple marks in here, but we're gonna get rid of some of the back anyway. All right, so I just cut a little piece of silver here just for the backing. So that's gonna go just like that. And again, I am gonna check and make sure that this is nice and flat before I solder it. So I don't want any gaps around this part. And if I see anything where it doesn't look like it's touching, I'll sand it down just a little bit more. All right, let's flux all over this. And I did hard last time, so I am going to dig out the medium. We got our solder pick at the ready. Where are those tweezers? We always end up needing some tweezers. We're not really gonna use a third arm here. That's pretty flat. I don't expect this to pop up or anything like that. With any luck, when we're done, we will say that ain't going nowhere. Take it to Tweezer Town. Sometimes this gets a little stuck. There we go. I'm gonna put that right in our little quench. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the pickle before I do anything else. Looks like I also need to change my pickle. That'll work, it'll just go a little slower. Well, no camera focus. Okay, there we go. Cool, so I am going to actually cut the excess around here just with the jeweler's saw. So what we have looks something like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and just sand around so that it is nice and smooth. This is really starting to look like a thing, huh guys? I have a drill bit in here with a little bit of Pepe lube on it. I need to make a little hole in the back of this. So you don't really have to do what I'm doing right now, but I want a little bit of a hole in the back. I am just gonna go straight down in here. I have my little finger protectors on here because it might get a little warm. Let's see. I have a little scrape in there that I am able to clean up, but I'm gonna cut a chunk of that away anyway. So I'm gonna turn this over and kind of measure an even little circle with the calipers, and then I'm gonna cut that out with the saw blade. I think I got it decently even. I found a little bit of a slightly fancier bezel wire, so I'm gonna go ahead and make the bail for the top of this. Here is my little piece of fancier bezel wire. That'd be kind of cute, right? Do like that. I'm gonna make this kind of a little bit better shape and get it ready to solder onto the top of this. I have my little bail right here, not attached yet. I mean, that feels pretty centered to me. You know, I always feel like there's somebody watching at home who is screaming no at their phone. Don't worry guys, I hear ya. A little flux, and by a little, I mean plenty. So I'm not gonna use medium now. We're gonna switch it up and let's take it to easy. I'll put a big old fat piece right there. I think it went all the way through. And there we go. That's all right. Go ahead and quench it. Let me go ahead and toss this in the pickle real quick and then we'll see what it looks like. All right, let's see if this is gonna focus. It's a little bit crooked. You see, I got a little bit crooked when I turned it around. That ain't going nowhere. I'm going to just take a fine polishing wheel and I'm just gonna clean this up. And then we're gonna go ahead and get the stone in here. I am using one of these little, I think they're silicone, the little polishing cones. I like these because they have a little point on them and you can get in the grooves. I think this is really as good as it's gonna get, especially for a little practice. Not so bad. I have two different bezel rockers here. I have one that is completely squared off on the edges, and then I have this one that's a little rounded. I think I might start with the square one first. And like I said, I'm a little rusty, but I do know if I do this side first, then I'm gonna go over here. You wanna stay opposite sides and then so it doesn't become uneven. So I guess I'm gonna start with the side. Just press it down and then press it in. This is usually the part that went poorly for me, just in case you're wondering. I'm just gonna keep going back and forth. There we go. I know a lot of people have like fancy attachments for their flex shaft. I do not have that because I don't have an actual Fordham. I'll show you what I have. I did buy it from Rio, but it's the cheaper version. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like the hammer hand piece works with my flex shaft. Let me know if you have, I'll put it somewhere in here. Let me know if you have that flex shaft and if you were able to get a hammer hand piece attachment for it. I think this came out pretty okay. Hopefully you can see it. I think I did okay. I really like that we cut out the back today because I think since it's such a pretty semi-translucent stone, I love seeing like the light go through stones like this. Do I think that this is ready to throw up on the site and sell? No, I don't. But I do feel like we are well on our way, right? So I'm excited about this. Sometimes when I do these little garage projects and share them with you guys, I will excitedly wear it and it kind of just, it's kind of like a little pick-me-up, you know? It'll remind me of all of the hard work I've done and you kind of look at it and even though it's not perfect, you feel really proud of it because this is progress, right? So I will say, even though this isn't going straight into the archives or anything like that, this is probably the best stone setting I've ever done. I'm gonna keep practicing and obviously there's more than just doing, I think this is called a box bezel setting. Let me know down below, have you guys tried stone setting? I know a lot of people who watch this playlist and who watch a lot of my videos specifically are interested in casting. If I wanted to cast this, I probably could. I could actually make a mold of this And if you watched where we did the mold making and then I kind of made my cheapo wax injector, I could actually sprue this up, put this inside my little mold making, pour the silicone in, and then when I wanted to do the wax injection, if I have a couple of these, I can take one of those stones and put it in place and then inject the wax. Or you could, once we had the bezel and the bail attached before I actually put the stone in, we could have sprued that up and made a mold from that. That would also be really good, especially if you buy a lot of this stone or you're making a collection and you know you're gonna just try to repeat this one pendant necklace, then that's a good way to do it. So maybe I'll try that in the future. I feel like learning different skill sets in metalsmithing, I think helps with other different skill sets. So for example, knowing how to do this, I think helps me when I am making a wax shape that I know I want to put a cabochon in. I think about, what did I have to do when I set that stone? So it makes it so that when I'm actually making the wax piece, I make something that's going to be easy for me to set a stone in later. This was super fun. I had a great time. I am very proud of my progress. I have a lot of super fun projects coming up. I have ordered stuff for us to make things. So it isn't here yet, which is another reason we did stone setting, because this was kind of on my things I wanted to do list anyway. That's going to be all for me today. Thank you again for joining me here, and I guess we'll just keep calling it Chaos Corner, but it's just my garage. Thank you for spending time with me in my little corner of the internet today. I will see you guys next time. Go forth, be kind, be creative.